welcome back to another Clash Mini video on the channel. My voice is kind of going away. I don't know what's going on right now, but hopefully it comes back during the video. I don't really know how that works, but we're just getting to the video. All right, so tier list coming out right now. We are going to start with the level 10 hero tier list. We have Barbarian King and Countess in the C tier here. I've actually been making some crazy good Barbarian King decks. They are going to see in this video. Barbarian King might shoot up to B, potentially even A. I don't really know if it's going to go up to A, but it definitely is a strong hero, and it probably should be into the B tier here. I made the decks kind of after this tier list, and I'm kind of iffy about the positioning of where this Barb King is. So we're going to leave him in the C tier now, but he could potentially go higher. Countess, in my opinion, is the worst hero inside of Clash Mini at level 10. Shield Maiden, Wave Master, and Monk are in the B tier here. The only reason why the Monk is not in the A tier or the S tier is because there's a lot of Royal Champions and there's a lot of Archer Queens in the meta, and it just struggles to do anything versus those two heroes. Wave Master, after his racist nerf, it's okay, not overpowered, not amazing, so I am going to put it into the B tier. Shield Maiden is a very, very good hero as well, just not high enough to go onto the A or the S tier. A tier here, we are going to have our Royal Champion, just very, very strong at level 10, especially with the double bounce on to the shield. And then for the S tier, we are going to have the Archer Queen, because the Archer Queen is the best hero inside of Clash Mini right now. The boast ability is just absolutely crazy at level 10. Level 5 tier list is going to come at you right now with the heroes starting it off first. We have Barbarian King, Wave Master, and Royal Champion. The Royal Champion, unfortunately, without the ability of level 10, is just not that great. The same thing with the Wave Master. That's why they're going to be in the C tier. The Barbarian King might be able to go up with the B tier, but for right now, we'll leave it into the C tier. We'll do another tier list in a little bit, really how the meta shakes out. Countess and Shield Maiden are going to be in the B tier. We're going to have the Monk in the A tier here, and the Archer Queen is going to be sitting alone in the S tier, just the most solid hero. There's a lot of monks right now, there's a lot of countesses, but the Archer Queen just shuts them all down in the level 5 hero tier list. Now we are going to be going on to the tier list. This is kind of a level 10 and level 5 mixed tier list here, so we are just going to go at it. Otherwise, the video would be forever long. Most of the minis are the same. In the D tier, we have Witch, Swordsman, Guard, and Battle Healer. Witch just never gets any play, never gets any value. Swordsman never gets any play, never gets any value. Guard, unfortunately, after the rework, still needs a little bit more to be part of the meta. And the Battle Healer, unfortunately, isn't even seen, and nobody plays Wizard or Heel Cut minis anymore, which is why the Battle Healer is going to be into the D tier here. Next up, we have the C tier minis. C tier minis are going to be the Electric Wizard, the Barbarian, the Dark Goblin, Valkyrie, Mega Knight, Fisherman, and the Miner. So here's what we have here. The Electric Wizard, unfortunately, is just not part of the meta currently. The Barbarian King is still struggling. It's okay, but it really doesn't do that much. The Dark Goblin, unfortunately, is now getting replaced with the Magic Archers and other minis as well, so it just does not get any value, or should I say enough value. There's a lot of Shield Maidens now in the meta as well, and Archer Queens as well as Archers. It just doesn't get enough. Valkyrie is just, it's an okay mini. It's good in probably like one deck, really only good in like a Shield Maiden deck where you can move the minis around, and it just doesn't get enough value. It just really doesn't do that great after the recent nerfs. Next up, we have the Mega Knight. The Mega Knight is unfortunately, it just isn't there. The stun is okay, but the mini Pekkas are all over the place, and as long as the mini Pekkas are part of the meta, the Mega Knights are not going to be there. Fisherman is our next mini up in the C tier. It does have some decent uses if you do hit the hook, but if you miss the hook, it's a D tier mini, so I'm just going to leave it here in the C tier, because if you do hit the hook, it is a B tier mini. If you miss the hook, it's a D tier mini, so I'll put it into the C tier. Next up, we have the Miner in the C tier. Now, this is a hot take. I actually personally like the Miner in the B or the A tier, which is very, very easy to counter. Now that, as you can see in this video, there is a Barb King deck with a Miner, and it's actually a pretty good Barbarian King deck. So I actually would probably put it in the B tier, but it's in the C tier here. Unfortunately, it just doesn't do that amazing. It really only fits in one deck currently right now, and I'm going to put it in the C tier. Could it be in the B tier? Absolutely. Next up, we have the B tier. The B tier minis are going to consist of the Lumberjack, the Giant Skeleton, the Battle Healer, the Prince, the Wizard, Knight, and Spear Goblin. The Spear Goblin making his way all the way back up, maybe even could be in the A tier. It's just so strong right now with the recent buffs, with the fact that it has 5 HP. It really puts in work and packs a punch. But let's go over from left to right here. We have the Lumberjack. Lumberjack is really, really good with the Rage, the Quick Sip, but it just is not that amazing to go any higher, and honestly, it can't really go any lower because the Quick Sip really does make it a very valuable mini in some decks. Giant Skeleton dropping here. Unfortunately, the shine and the luster really got taken away with the Golden Giant. The reason why is because the Golden Giant does very well versus stun minis, and there are a lot of stun minis. The Golden Giant counters the World Champion. It counters the Wave Master, and also counters another Golden Giant and the Giant Skeleton, which is why the Giant Skeleton is going to be sitting here into the B tier. Healing Ranger is going to be our next mini up here. Healing Ranger, after the recent nerfs, it almost got gutted. It's still decent, but with all the archers currently in the meta right now, it just has to stay into the B tier. Next up, we have the Prince. The Prince is an okay mini. It's decent, but unfortunately, it really is only in like one deck, and that is the deck where you throw all of the Clash minis in one deck and hope for the best. For that fact alone, it is going to be sitting here in the B tier. The Wizard has some uses, is pretty good, but unfortunately just isn't really part of the meta right now, and that's why I'm going to have it into the B tier. The Heal Cut really isn't that super important right now, that there aren't that many Heal Cut minis. Knight, great mini, absolute Chad of Clash mini. Unfortunately, it's just not in a great position because of the Pekka, which is absolutely amazing right now, taking over the meta as the tank with the shield clash. But unfortunately for the Knight, it's going to be in the B tier. Could it be in the A tier? Potentially, but for me, I'm going to put it into the B tier. And as we talked about earlier, with the 5 HP now, with a little bit faster attack speed, the Spear Goblin is in the B tier. Next up, we have the A tier. A tier minis are going to be the Ice Wizard, the Magic Archer, the Bowler, the Pekka, the Musketeer, Archer, and Golden Giant. Ice Wizard is absolutely amazing. It's really the only way to stop and slow down mini Pekkas that are trying to come after your front line. The Magic Archer is an absolute amazing mini because it clears out the front line, it chips out the back line, and it really is great right now, especially if you can get the good angle of the dangle and get value there. Bowler is going to be our next mini out here into the A tier. The Bowler is an absolute amazing mini and gets a ton of value, especially with the roll, and I feel like the Bowler is one of those minis that is just absolutely amazing and can really get value. Next up, we have the Pekka. The Pekka potentially could be in the S tier here. With the block ability, it works so well in a lot of decks. It shuts down the Archer Queens. It shuts down the Royal Champions. It really does a lot of work, especially with the block ability. That is why it's in the A tier, and in my potential opinion, or should I say potential opinion? In my personal opinion, it could be one of the best, probably top 4 minis inside of Clash Mini. Musketeer is going to be next up. Have you ever gotten double Shun Shot? Forever. Great mini here. Unfortunately, it is slowly falling out of the meta. It still is an A tier mini alone, so I am going to leave it here. It's still solid, but it isn't like super overpowered. Next up, we have the Archer. Potentially could be an S tier mini. It gets absolute amazing value versus all the Archer Queens. You kind of have to have it in your deck. It is an almost must-have in your deck, which is why I'm going to put it in the A tier. I think it's probably potentially the second or third best mini in the game. It could also be potentially the best mini in the game, but we'll get to that in a second. Golden Giant is going to be here. It's an absolute amazing mini. Could be the best mini in the game, but it is just going to have to fall into the A tier. I kind of only want to put one mini in the S tier. That's kind of how I do these tier lists. Otherwise, I would have probably probably put the Archer and the Golden Giant in the S tier. Now, we're going to be going over to the S tier. The S tier is going to be by one mini and one mini alone. That is going to be the mini Pekka. The reason why is because it shuts down the monks, it shuts down the shield mages, it shuts down the countesses, the wave master, barbarian kings. It shuts down every single hero besides the royal champion and the archer queen, and it is a must-have in most decks. The problem is when you're playing versus a royal champion or versus an archer queen, it doesn't get that much value, but in level 5 hero tier, there is no real royal champion, so your only threat is an archer queen. Yes, there are a lot of archer queens, but if it shuts down 6, or should I say 5 out of the other heroes, you have to say it is an amazing mini. And that is why, with the new Dissipate, with the extra value that it gets, when it just absolutely chunks down the front line of your opposition, that is why the Mini Pekka is going to be the best mini inside of Clash Mini. Thank you guys so much for watching this YouTube video.